Just waiting for some of the last to come onto the grid. Dave Hiscock, very quiet, conservative sort of fellow, but he concentrates hard. He wasn't too keen to race away from the start. Rodger Freeth looks to have had the best start. Who's going to be into the first quarter first? Rodger Freeth it is. Number 2, Robert Holden, Dennis Ireland, and Glenn Williams. Once again, we see Robert Holden racing away from the start. The bike is obviously very quick, and he is an experienced rider in this type of racing. He always gets a good start, but as Graham has told us, it's the kind of race where some tactics will need to be employed. While you can't let the fellows get too far away from you, you also need to conserve a little bit in tyre wear and perhaps conserve a little bit in engine wear too.
Also, along with Rodger Freeth, he's had some mechanical problems in the last 2 races. He's just fitted a new master cylinder to the front brake of his Macintosh Suzuki, so I think he'll be in a far better frame of mind under braking situations this time.
Yes, he's obviously dominating already. He's not going to let Robert Holden away with it. Rodger Freeth looking like he wants to get down to business very early. Dennis Ireland's 3rd. Glenn Williams has just been passed by Dave Hiscock, so Hiscock already in 4th place. And I would think, Graham, that Dave Hiscock will be able to hold 4th place without doing too much and without putting too much strain on himself or the bike.
Well, that's right. Dave's in a position there where he can sit there all day because he's got enough power to get away from the people behind him. And he's probably got enough power to catch up with the people in front as well.
So Robert Holden back in front in these early stages. Rodger Freeth 2nd, Dennis Ireland 3rd. Bear in mind that Rodger Freeth and Dennis Ireland are 2nd equal on points with 33. Dave Hiscock, of course, has a maximum of 40. Robert Holden once again looks like he's giving it all he's got for a start. But as we've seen in the 2 legs already, he leads like that for the first couple of laps, and then he seems to get picked off quite easily.
Yeah, Dave Hiscock's moved right up close behind Rodger Freeth now, and Dennis Ireland's moved into 2nd spot. But it's somewhere that he's really going to push to try and get that lead off Robert Holden.
And Dennis Ireland into 2nd now. Robert Holden, Dennis Ireland, Rodger Freeth, Dave Hiscock. I would think Dave Hiscock will be content to sit in that 4th or perhaps 3rd place for a little while yet. He's got them well within his grasp. They're not getting too far away from him, but he's not doing too much. As he said, he doesn't take any risks at all on this circuit. Robert Holden still holding on to Dennis Ireland. Ireland 2nd, Freeth 3rd. And Hiscock taking Freeth there. So Hiscock's up to 3rd already. Now I would have thought that Rodger Freeth would be looking for that 2nd spot straight away, but he doesn't seem to have been able to clinch it.
Well, I don't know what's happened there. Maybe Rodger's got some problem with the bike or something, but it's not normally the way Rodger rides.
So Dennis Ireland in the lead now. Robert Holden 2nd. Hiscock 3rd, quite comfortably. Rodger Freeth 4th. Hiscock looking for all the world like he's going to take over from Robert Holden. Dennis Ireland. Hiscock up there already. That's all it took him, 3 laps to get up to the place where he really probably wants to be for a little while.
A lot of the times it's safer to be leading in a race that you know you can win fairly easily. It is definitely a lot safer.
But sitting behind an experienced rider like Dennis Ireland, I don't think you'll have any worries.
Well, it is correct, but on the other hand, you know, I'd still like to be out by myself.
So Dennis Ireland, Dave Hiscock, Robert Holden, Rodger Freeth. Be interesting to see how long Dave Hiscock is prepared to sit there. Glenn Williams coming through in 4th place. Hiscock already right on top of Ireland there. He's got to pick exactly the right place to get past. Can he do it? Yes, he's in front. Just a little burst of power when he wanted to do it. He waited 3 laps. And now Hiscock, I doubt if he'll be caught. Dennis Ireland has already showed us that while he's quick, he's not as quick as Dave Hiscock around here today. And I doubt very much that Dennis Ireland will get in front of Dave Hiscock. He seems to have just dictated it the way he wants it. In front now, Dennis Ireland second, Robert Holden still third.
With 18 laps to go, it's still anybody's race. Anything can happen.
It's the last thing in the world that Dave Hiscock would want now is a mechanical failure, which could very well cost him the entire race.
Well, Dave's bike's been set up and been used a lot during this year, and I think that the way it's all been screwed together, there's no way we're going to be looking at it breaking down.
Robert Holden still hanging in there with 3rd place, looking a little shaky. And Rodger Freeth dropping back even further. I'm beginning to wonder if Rodger Freeth has a mechanical problem with that bike.
Well, I would suggest that it's probably the brake still giving him a little bit of drama.
One problem he had earlier in testing was with the brakes getting hot, particularly on a hot day like this. The front brake calipers were transferring heat into the front forks and thereby negating a lot of the shock absorber qualities, so that he was having some problem under brakes that way.
Well, of course, the bike that Rodger's been riding has anti-dive front forks, which don't permit the front to dive so much under brakes, but it doesn't change the actual damping rate, so it's a very highly technical as far as motorcycles go for the front forks on his bike.
Hiscock already starting to pick up back markers now and lap them. 25 lap race with 7 laps completed. Still early days yet, as Graham said, anything can happen. But Hiscock certainly looks to have it in his grasp very easily.
Dennis Ireland's hanging on to Dave very well, especially seeing as the GP bike is very nimble through the corners and handles well, but Dave's bike just seems to have that mid-range 4-stroke horsepower to be able to just make it ideal for this circuit.
I notice that Dave Hiscock seems now to be hopping off the side of the bike. He's a lap down. So Hiscock and Ireland really having this little duel up front, and they're starting to clear away now from the rest of the field. Hiscock, Dennis Ireland, Robert Holden, Rodger Freeth, Glenn Williams, Richard Scott, Robbie Dean and Neil Smith is the order at the moment. Really the major interest centres round Dave Hiscock at the front. And it certainly would be justice if he won this race, having won all 3, and take away the Bryan Scobie Memorial Trophy and the prestige of winning this race. Just nipping through back markers there as if they weren't even there. That bike really does look very nimble, doesn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. We got a time on him at 54 seconds, which is 2 seconds off the lap record, but 2 seconds is easily lost, especially seeing as he had to pass 2 or 3 back markers in that lap.
Robert Holden still in 3rd place. These men have been lapped. Number 10, that's Robert Holden in 3rd place. Rodger Freeth, number 2, right behind him, is in 4th place. And Rodger Freeth starting to pick up a little now. Let's have a look at this little duel here. Rodger Freeth again seems to be upset as he was. Now you remember in the second leg of this race, Rodger Freeth was getting upset by Dennis Ireland putting back markers between he and Rodger. And now Robert Holden has done the same thing a couple of times. And Rodger Freeth, from being right on his tail, lost a second. He seems to be making it up again now. I'll be surprised if Rodger Freeth can't get past Robert Holden.
Robert's riding exceptionally well, and it's very easy to try and place back markers where the other rider doesn't want them, but equally it's very difficult when you do get into that situation.
Of course, everybody has got to ride through the back markers. Dave Hiscock there, just being a little tentative as he went past Peter Shapcott from Christchurch on a TZ350, which of course is a much underpowered bike compared to what he's riding. How much is that a worry when you've got to pass back markers whose ability you don't know?
Well, I think it's more important the fact that following, having two riders together and the first one goes past a back marker, you've got to be very careful that the rider doesn't panic and make a direct change in course, thinking that somebody else is following the rider. And if you are following him, and that rider often gets put right in your track.
They're on the 13th lap now, 12 completed. Still Dave Hiscock. He's not really putting all that much between he and Dennis Island, but he doesn't seem very worried about it. He obviously knows he can beat him. Right, Dennis Island sitting in there in second place. Circulating quite well and quite tidily, doing nothing wrong, doesn't seem to be making any mistakes at all. But I think he's aware of the fact that he can't catch Dave Hiscock. Having had two races already, he'll know just how fast Dave Hiscock's bike is, and conversely how fast or slow his is. Dave Hiscock, round past the bridge again, nice and smooth. Dennis Island sitting on him, and a good gap. These two really are opening up quite a gap now, back to third place. Still, according to the lap chart, Robert Holden. Let's have a look back to the gap in third place. Dave Hiscock and Dennis Island away in first and second, and just look at that gap. That's a long way back to Robert Holden. And Rodger Freeth sitting in fourth place, and Freeth really hasn't made any impression at all on Robert Holden. The two of them seem to have slowed down together.
Well, it may be that Rodger's still got problems and Robert's riding exceptionally well. But I think the duel here at the moment is going to be between
staying close enough where he can make a challenge. He's probably sorting out whereabouts on the circuit is the best place to do it.
Well, he's got to get close enough, and at this stage I don't think he's quite close enough. He is close, but just he has to be right on that back wheel at the right time.
Dave Hiscock hasn't looked behind him in 4 laps, but I'll bet he's well aware of how far behind him Dennis Island is. He's happily out there riding his own race. The only person he has to worry about in the slightest is Dennis Island. He's the only person really within QE of him, close enough to challenge. And I think Hiscock's riding within himself to the extent that he'll be able to hold off a challenge when it comes. 15 laps completed. Dave Hiscock again, just not being too silly when he came past a back marker. Dennis Island having to come past the same people, obviously, but taking a different route. How much has he made up there?
He's going to make up a lot. He's going to make up a lot because Dennis got caught with two back markers on 2 consecutive corners.
The name of the game is being in the right place at the right time with the right amount of power and the steering pointed right. Dennis Island is going to have to work very hard, Graham, to make up that what he's just lost.
Well, it looks to me as if No, I honestly don't think that Dennis will be able to do anything. He may get very, very close towards the end, but it looks at this stage that Dave's got it sewn up. Seeing as they've been going hard right from the start, any tyre problems are going to be with both bikes, not just one.
Perhaps the Suzuki being slightly lighter, but not very much. The RG may have a minor advantage there, but there'll be very little in it.
Well, he may have a minor advantage, but that is entirely dependent on the tyres that they selected previous to the start. Now, I know that Dennis would probably be able to run a softer compound than what Dave would. So it sort of balances itself out.
Hiscock once again being able to put on a little burst when he wants to, and that gap must be frustrating for Dennis Ireland. He's closed it up on 3 occasions and got close enough to be almost in a challenging position, but not quite. And every time he gets that close, Dave Hiscock just seems to put on a little burst and get away again, so he's out of reach. He's still looking here for 3rd place. Rodger Freeth still behind Robert Holden. Robert Holden's in 3rd. And you saw the gap there.
Glenn Williams is out on lap 14.
Glenn Williams has retired. So it's Hiscock, Ireland, Robert Holden, Freeth, Scott, Smith and Dean. 19 laps completed now. So 26 to go. Dave Hiscock really only has to hold on. He hasn't looked like he's been under any great pressure at all in any of the 3 legs.
Well, it's probably just the way he's riding, the smoothness of it. It looks as if it's effortless.
Hiscock again with the traffic to come through. The faster he goes, the more traffic he picks up on the way. But of course, everybody else in the leading bunch has the same traffic to get through as they start to lap them. Hiscock across the bridge, down to the start-finish line once again. That's 5 laps left. Hiscock seems to be able to put on a burst. He obviously has some in hand when he wants to, just to get that far out of reach to frustrate Dennis Ireland.
Well, it looks to me like the style that Dennis is riding now, he's decided that he can't match the pace, and he's not given up, but is content with a 2nd place.
So Dennis Ireland will finish, if he finishes in 2nd place here, will finish 2nd overall, and Rodger Freeth at this rate I think will finish 3rd, depending on Robert Holden. Because Ireland and Rodger Freeth were 2nd equal before the race started. Dave Hiscock, of course, with a clear lead, maximum points. 2 wins gives him 40, this will give him 60. It doesn't look to me like he's going to be beaten or challenged. Now Dennis Ireland, fairly obviously now, is going to ride to 2nd place. I think he's just lost Dave Hiscock altogether.
There's no use putting the bike to too much strain trying to follow somebody that you know you can't beat, but you know, 2nd spot has earned him a few dollars anyway.
And very interesting to note at this point that after 22 laps, Dave Hiscock has lapped everybody but the first 6. Everybody except the first 6 in the running order has been lapped by this man Dave Hiscock in the space of 22 laps. That's just how much quicker he's going. Still Hiscock. That gap back to Ireland now nearly 3 seconds. He has it in his grasp. He's just got to hold on for another 3 laps. Here's Dennis Ireland, 2nd place. That's the gap. And I don't think Dennis Ireland's going to be challenged either for 2nd place.
Now, it looks as if he's got too much of a gap between him and the 3rd man.
So dare we say it, dare we say that the Bryan Scobie Memorial overall has been won convincingly today by Dave Hiscock. Obviously in motor racing the old adage applies, to finish first you must finish, but Dave Hiscock is a sensible rider, an experienced rider. He will know that he's riding within the capabilities of that bike and himself. Into the S's. He'll come round for the white flag this time, Dave Hiscock. Just lifting the front wheel slightly into the right-hander. He'll come round for the left over the bridge. Sweeping round.
Looks like those shock absorbers are just about dried enough. The back wheel's chattering and bouncing.
The back wheel's starting to bounce all over the place.
Probably due to the fact that the shock absorbers are really getting hot.
The white flag already out for Dave Hiscock, who has absolutely dominated the racing here at the cemetery circuit of Wanganui today. On his last lap, and we'll see if we can come back at the end of this race for a little slow-mo replay just over the bridge. It's interesting to watch Dave Hiscock over that bridge and the pounding that his bike is taking as a result of the shock absorbers, feeling the pace. Hiscock looks over his shoulder, though what for I'm not sure, because the crowd that's there is none of his competition. I really think this is just reward for Dave Hiscock. He has been unbeatable here today. Nobody really has gotten close to beating him. Superbly run race, nicely paced, good judgment. In second place will be Dennis Ireland. Dave Hiscock waves to the crowd. Dennis Ireland will be in second place, but there was no disputing who won the race. Robert Holden will be third, Rodger Freeth, then go back to Scott, Smith and Dean. But certainly Dave Hiscock, Dennis Ireland and Robert Holden. Now just have a look at Dave Hiscock as he comes round over this bridge, and have a look at the shock absorbers on the back of the bike and the front forks and the amount of work they're doing. Coming up the back of your picture now, Dave Hiscock. Just watch that wheel bouncing. So absolutely just reward today for Wellington's Dave Hiscock, who has ridden superbly in everything. He has never looked like being challenged. He has won everything, including the Bryan Scobie Memorial Race. Good luck.